This meeting is being held in conformance with the Sunshine Law. Notice of time, date, and place has been furnished to the Bergen Record and the Ridgewood News. Notice has also been posted on the bulletin board at the Administration Building. Will the clerk kindly take the roll?
Mayor Giordano.
Here.
Mr. Bjork.
Here.
Ms. Sarapola.
Here.
Mr. Ritchie.
Here.
Mr. Schatz.
Here.
Mr. Shalero.
Here.
Mrs. Sherman.
Here.
Everyone kindly rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us have a moment of silence for our Waldeck veterans and all veterans across our country who have given the ultimate sacrifice so that we can assemble like we are today and live in a land that is free. Start with prayer.
We thank you for everyone gathered here now. Thank you that you know each of us by name and have caused us to walk with you. We say that we are dependent on you and our trust is in you completely. As we surrender ourselves in adoration, we ask that you would come by your Holy Spirit and inspire our hearts today. Come fill our lives with your love, fill our conversations with your grace and truth, fill this meeting with your presence. We ask this for your glory and praise. Amen.
Amen. Good evening, everyone. Under my report, a couple of items. First of all, I received a nice letter yesterday from Melissa Bell, whose father was Ted Bell, who we are having his park redone. She gave me a lot of history about him, a lot of history on how and why they named the park after him. She gave me pictures of the ceremony when the park was dedicated. So when we have the ceremony, which is the Saturday of Father's Day weekend, they will be here and we will rededicate the park to Mr. Bell. Also today, I attended the last 5K meeting. It was a little quick meeting, in and out, because I had to be at business. But I did speak with Stan, and Stan, as usual, has done a great job with his committee. On Friday, Stan and myself will be meeting in my office here just to tighten things up. If he has any ideas of anything else, he'll bring it to our attention so we can make sure that everyone that is involved with the 5K sees our town shine like it always does. I would also like to thank all the council members who attended the grand opening of the new mini brewery here in Waldeck. It was a great turnout. They're doing very well. They're very happy they're in Waldeck. And it was nice to see a lot of people who live in Waldeck was there at the grand opening and also the day before or the week before the soft opening. Saturday, I have a mayor's meeting in Allendale. The one Waldeck was supposed to host last month was canceled. It seemed that every mayor had the opening day of baseball, so all of us were at the different fields of the towns supporting our young children for sports. Also, the same day that they had the grand opening of the brewery, my wife and I went to the train station in which they had a Arbor Day ceremony in which they dedicated and planted a New Jersey red oak, which is the tree of New Jersey. There was the Danello Construction Company, Russo Development Company, and New Jersey Transit. They were all there, and also our county executive was there. It was a very nice ceremony. While I was there, I spoke with Jersey Transit, and we somewhat told them about how we don't like the overpass of the way we have to go from one side of the train to another. He thought it was a kind of strange that it looked like that, but he says that what he's going to do is he's going to reach out to his people, and his people will speak to our people. And what they're going to do is they can't change anything, but they're willing to clean it up and paint it. So they're going to make it look a little bit like the colors of the train station building, which is a plus because, you know, that's never been done, and they noticed this, and they're going to work on it for us. Also, on May 5th, I want to thank Councilman Schatz and Kelly, who went with me to a ceremony to honor the Waldeck Community Alliance, Chuck's group who received the 2022 Bergen County Historic Preservation Award in the category of history. They honored them for their museum. They honored them for keeping the tradition and history alive in the borough. And I could not stay the whole night because I had a fire department meeting. But Councilman Schatz and Kelly were there, and I was told that the meeting was nice. They received a plaque, and they were very happy about that. Also, if you read the our administrator's report. It talked about the DiMartini project, which is on Monroe Street, about naming it after someone. I was thinking about it. I talked to Patrick a little bit about it tonight. I think it would be an honor for us to name it after a veteran. Mostly all our streets are named after veterans. But before we do that, we'd like to reach out. I would like to reach out, if it's all right with the council, to the people of the American Legion and the VFW to see who's the next one in line that does not have a street named after them. And we would name that street after them. I guess if that's something that we would like to do, we'll reach out to the American Legion. Every street in Waldeck's named after a veteran, and we will keep on continuing that tradition. Also, I've been getting emails from Stan Kowalski, which is not here tonight, talking to us about Ho-Hocus and about how they are having the banners on their poles for veterans. That's something Kelly and I have been talking about for the last year and a half now. And we were going to be doing that next year, not this year, because this year we're doing the new signs for the holiday all over the town. So next year what we'll do is we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to reach out with a form to any resident that would like to have a veteran's face and picture on a banner that's on the poles. Since Ho-Hocus beat us to it, we're going to make sure our price is $10 cheaper. So we'll compete with them somewhat. I told Stan that. He thought it was a great idea. So I told Stan, since you keep on sending me all these emails, I'll make you help me with this. So Stan doesn't know it yet, but he'll be helping me with all this stuff. And that's all I have to report right now. Financial and Administrative Committee, Councilman Shalero.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight under new business, we were supposed to be hearing from our tax assessor and the company that performs the reval for our community called Appraisal Systems, Inc. Our tax assessor, Angela Matisse, has a conflict, so can't be with us, so we're going to postpone that to our next meeting. The other item was the Finance Committee was asked to look at the parking permit fees and all the fees surrounding the metered parking around the train station. We haven't met yet. We're still waiting for some information, I believe, from New Jersey Transit. And once we get that, we'll start meeting and we'll report back as we make progress. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Fire and Police Protection Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. So on April 29th, they visited the Northwest Bergen County Utilities Authority water treatment plant in town that I'm sure you are all familiar with. We learned about the current reporting system in place for smells, and just as a reminder to residents, if you wish to report a smell, you can call the police and they will route the complaint to the authority and hopefully have someone at the site within 15 minutes of the call to investigate. Unfortunately, at this time, Waldeck does not have any representation on the board there, so it is important that we work toward getting representation through county elections in the fall to then hopefully gain a Waldeck appointment so we have more of a say there. As for the fire department, they finished April with 16 calls, responding mutual aid for a building fire in Saddle River on 4/7. They've continued drilling on Thursday nights, and right now are in the process of getting members done with their yearly mask fit testing. So far for May, the department has been mutual aid to Wyckoff for 2 working fires, and I'll post pictures that they provided to me on my Facebook. For the police, on May 1st, I was lucky enough to attend the Battle of the Badges charity softball game where I saw Councilman Shalaro and the Waldeck-Allendale PBA team were very competitive, and they actually made it to the championship game, placing second in the tournament. So props to them. As for official business, we had a number of motor vehicle attempted thefts, as usual. There was a car burglary on Hopper Ave, and a few days later, the vehicle's owner reported attempted bank fraud because they stole checks from that vehicle. On 4/24, a porch pirate was arrested after stealing a package from the front of a residence of West Saddle River Road, and the theft had been witnessed by the homeowner on his doorbell camera. On 4/26, a motor vehicle was stolen in front of Bagel Nosh in the morning after the driver entered the establishment and left the car running. The vehicle was later recovered by Milburn Police Department 2 days later with some damage. And also, recently, an employee of 7-Eleven contacted headquarters and reported a shoplifting that occurred a few days earlier. It was reported that several $100s worth of cigarettes were stolen from a back office. So our detectives responded to the scene and were able to gather security footage, and they determined that the actor committed the same offense in other jurisdictions, and the suspect was positively identified. So Detective Palaio was able to respond to the actor's residence and assisted with the arrest. And finally, the Police Unity Tour departed from Ground Zero yesterday morning for National Police Week in Washington, D.C. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Public Safety Committee, Councilman Shatz.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to point a couple, I do have the volunteer ambulance corps sheet runs for April, and they had 49 total runs, 43 of which were specifically to residents, and then there was another one, there's another 6 more to the Bristol community. We also have to add in the fact that they've also done 3 more runs outside of town to Allendale and surrounding towns. I have them down here, but I can't find them. I also attended the planning board meeting last week, and it turned out that they had 3 resolutions that were approved: Canine Resort, fingerprinting company, an acupuncturist, and then we had 1 application that was heard for actually for the acupuncturist. We have 2 resolutions. So, and then I'll talk about the environmental committee.
Okay, thank you. Recreation and Health Committee, Councilwoman Sherman.
Thank you. I drove by Ted Bell Park today, and I noticed the swings in place and the paths are being laid. It looks fantastic. It looks like it's on schedule. I'm sure Greg will speak of that. I'm happy to say the graffiti was removed from the boulder at Borough Park. I want to thank our DPW for jumping on that and remind our residents to not deface our parks, either with painting, graffiti, or by pulling out plants that are planted. Let's try and keep our parks beautiful. The Emily Rice Playground continues to be closed. I see they're still working on the slide. It looks nice. I saw it laying there, and I'm sure it'll be worth the wait, so be patient. The Good Deeds Garden at Veterans Park is now complete, and it looks fantastic, and I saw some of our residents enjoying it, so good job to the Chamber of Commerce on that. The pool is being prepped for opening day. Tonight on the agenda, we are approving some pool personnel. It's nice to see a lot of returning employees on the list as lifeguards in different capacities, different level of ranks. Membership is now available online, but remind the residents the prices increase on May 27th. Right now, the preseason rate is $70 for adults 18 to 61, $45 for seniors over the age of 62, and $65 for 4 to 17-year-olds. The information's all on the website. Remind the residents we have our first summer concert on May 25th at 7 p.m. at Borough Park. The band Kinderhook will be playing. We invite the residents to bring your own chairs and blanket and food for a food collection that we're going to be doing at all the concerts. So please go through your cabinets and bring some food for our less fortunate neighbors. The Waldwick Volunteer Goose Patrol is starting, and we are looking for 5 volunteers to be on the patrol board. You need to complete a citizen leadership application on the website and send an email to info@waldwicknj.org. We will also be looking for dogs to participate eventually. On May 17th is the Waldwick 5K. I encourage our residents to come out and cheer on the runners and walkers. It's always a great event sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. And Waldwick Soccer, I saw, is accepting registrations, and they're also actively looking for volunteer coaches. Waldwick Community Alliance, has their car show on June 5th from 9:30 to 3. Also a wonderful event. It's always great to see other residents in the town and look at everyone's beautiful vehicles. And to remind the residents that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and resources and helpful telephone numbers are available on our website. And I would like to congratulate the Waldwick Community Alliance for receiving the 2022 Bergen County Historic Award. I congratulate you. You always do a nice job down at the train station. I would like to remind the residents of the commemorative tree program that is being offered. You could purchase a tree for the $600 and have it planted in the borough. You could find the information on the website, and it's a nice thing to do to commemorate a birth or a anniversary, a birthday, whatever you want to do. And I'm just curious about the tree planting at the train station. I wasn't aware of that.
I made an announcement at the meeting.
Oh, sorry, didn't notice it. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, Mr. Councilman Ritchie.
It's Dr. Councilman Ritchie, but.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Like Councilwoman Sarah Cola mentioned, on the 29th, I had the opportunity to go down to the Northwest Bergen County Utilities Authority. That is the NBCUA. I arrived at around 11:58, departed at 12:51. I missed kind of the end of the tour, but we met with the executive assistant director and toured the facility. I thought I'd enlighten the community with kind of what we learned. So the NBCUA receives sewage from its member, and this is from the website and from what we learned, from member municipalities, and conveys the sewage to its treatment plant here in Waldwick. The municipalities own and are responsible for the operation of their own sewage, but then it kind of all flows into the NBCUA, which I was unaware of. It's an independent kind of quasi-governmental agency, so it's up to the NBCUA to kind of determine the rates and essentially kind of what it does down there, which was somewhat surprising. Waldwick really has no say. Operations began in 1969. With the treatment capable of 8.5 million gallons per day, but the plant has since expanded to 16.8 million gallons per day at capacity. It utilizes conventional and activated sludge processes to treat the sewage. So the first process is the bar screen. Two main collection systems run into a trunk, and the wastewater treatment kind of begins. Essentially what happens here is it basically removes all of the solid waste that's within the sewage. So things like rags, glass, rocks, and I think you mentioned diapers even. And essentially removes those, presses it, and kind of collects all of the liquid. Then the screening continues, and it moves through different chambers. There's vertical steel bars spaced to catch the debris of a certain size, and then mechanical rakes to continuously scrape the screens to remove the debris and deposit them into hoppers that kind of press the liquid. Then moves to the primary sedimentation. Now, this is the area that gives most of the smell that the residents are kind of complaining about. He walked us down and he said, every time we bring someone in, this is kind of exactly where they take us. And I have to say, it's kind of overwhelming, the smell, when you were down there and you kind of saw it. But essentially what happens here is that this is the next step. The screening is performed prior to the step moves downstream to this process. This is a settling process that represents the first step in treatment intended to abate the water pollution. Primary settling is merely a physical separation of solids from wastewater. So basically, it just sinks, right, because it's heavier. And the wastewater flows into these primary settling tanks where the flow velocity is reduced and the suspended material is allowed to settle to the bottom of the tanks. About 50% of the suspended solids and biological oxide demand are removed from this unit process. Now, he indicated that when the smell kind of gets up there, they do what they can, but there's really not a whole lot. They can add a little bit of chlorine, but it's kind of hard for them to abate the smell. I'd like to see, if there's anything else that can kind of be done here. Once the settled material, that's referred to as primary sludge and is pushed into the automatic sludge collection equipment into a hopper where it's pumped into grit grinders. And the facility currently has 4 primary sedimentation tanks, and this is apparently where, again, all of the smell is coming from. So as a part of the primary treatment, floatable materials such as oil, grease will rise to the surface, et cetera. Then it moves to grit collection. Grit consists of sandy materials and other particulates that are readily settle from the wastewater, and they can be discharged, by the sewers. Sludge is collected at the bottom of the primary settling tanks and is pumped. The grit's removed, and et cetera, and then we move into the activated sludge process. Because of the high BOD loads that remain in the water following the primary treatment, further treatment must be provided. Now, this is apparently the area where they pump a lot of air into the tanks. So much air that if you were to fall in or jump in, you'd sink to the bottom, apparently, because there's just so much oxygen in there. It's it's kind of interesting to see. And basically what they're doing there is taking microorganisms like bacteria, and they're breaking down all the sludge. And finally, it goes to the final clarifiers. And what was most surprising to me is that at the end of all of this process, it essentially just dumps into the Hohokus Creek, for what it's worth. The plant capacity is 16.8 million gallons per day. The annual flow is 10.3 million gallons per day. And as I said, it kind of moves into the Hohokus Brook. So it was truly enlightening to be there. I wish to never go back if I can avoid it. I learned a lot, though, while I was there. So I appreciated the company with Councilman Bjork and Councilwoman Saracola. It was an interesting day. As far as the DPW is concerned, they're working on street patching. As the weather kind of increases, as I say, every week. And you hear that they're working on street patching, and I wanted to do some research. Waldwick is 2.066 square miles, which if you use the metric system is 5.3 square kilometers. That's a lot of street for them to continue patching. It's 151 roads and counting, right? We're going to talk about more roads that are coming on as we build new properties. It's a lot of roads, and there are several asphalt patching techniques that can be used for filling cracks and potholes, repairs, et cetera, et cetera. When done right, it'll stay, right? Some of the commonly used asphalt patching repair methods are the throw and roll, right? And so that's kind of temporary. You basically, it's liquid-filled asphalt. You dump into the hole, you roll it over, and it's basically there. That's typically done in the winter or when it's raining, when the weather's not so good. That's a quick fix, right? That's not meant to last forever. Then you have the semi-permanent patches. So it's a slightly longer-lasting solution. The method requires proper surface preparation. So water and debris are removed. Usually take a broom or a compressor, and you essentially, cut out the area to kind of make a nice even surface, and you fill it with the patching mix, and then you roll it in. Then we have the spray injection method. In this method, special trunk mounted equipment is used. So you have to first kind of get on a truck and blow all of the debris and water out. And finally, we have the full depth patching method, which is considered the permanent repair method. And this technique uses excavating materials and when needed. So as again, weather really dictates when this can be done and how it's done. And so sometimes when you use these like other methods during kind of inclement weather, they don't always stay. So as the weather gets nicer, we'll get into that. They're also doing curb box repairs. I will admit that, and I tried to do as much reading as I could about curb boxes and kind of all of this. I had been saying they've been doing curb box repairs, but I didn't really know much what they were. It's a vertical cast iron sleeve that is accessible from the public way, and essentially what it does is provide the water from kind of the main into your house. And so according to Wikipedia, if you're going to repair the box, you have to dig a wide hole around the broken equipment, cut the cast iron tube below the affected area, splice the extension, and then thread a coupler on and kind of replace it. Apparently, this happens pretty regularly in Waldwick, especially as the weather kind of improves, and a lot of the frozen cold weather will burst these pipes, and so they tend to kind of go in. So if there's bad corrosion from kind of acidic soil, which is common around these, a larger repair is going to kind of be required. So every house, every apartment building, they all have these, and there's 3,399 houses currently in Waldwick. So this is infrastructure that the DPW kind of continues, working through, day in and day out as the weather changes. I also had the opportunity to attend the Board of Education meeting last night. It was well attended, great presentation on their budget this year. They were able to hold their tax rate increase to just 0.9%. So I think everyone was really happy to kind of see that. They talked a little bit about some of the shared services between the municipality and the Board of Education in the budget presentation. There was discussion on potentially maybe a career day, things like that. So it was a well-attended event. I enjoyed it. As having kids in the school system, I have more of a reason to go now. So much appreciated for being there, and I greatly appreciate the Board of Ed for what they do every day. It's not tough. Right now, it's a tough environment to be out there. So, Mayor, I think that's my report for this. I have a couple other things that I wanted to go through, but I'll hold them off until the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Building and Grounds Committee, Councilman York.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to apologize for not getting to the last two meetings. I can blame a deer and hockey for those two events, but as Tom said, Ted Bell Park is getting ready for its ceremony, and as Terry said, it does look nice. I've been over there a couple times, talked with the contractor and seen the progress. I've also communicated with the family, the other sister, Rhonda, and I believe they're all looking forward to the dedication. As the two previous council persons just discussed the Northwest Bergen County Utilities Authority visit, I had reached out to Patrick to get us to get a tour down there, as I'm the liaison to that facility, and it was a good idea to bring the two new council persons with us. Mike gave a very thorough review of their website. Prior to their arrival, I chatted quite a bit with the executive director, John Danubio, and I met their superintendent, Mr. Genatelli. We did take a tour with a little golf cart, and I was pretty impressed with the facility, to tell you the truth. I think they've got conscientious employees. It looks like it's well maintained. It certainly does have a smell when you get down there in the valley. I was a little more familiar with the operations, it sounds like, than you might have been, Michael, but I think we all learned a lot. I focused a little bit more on calling in and making complaints, because I've made complaints, but what I learned is if you're just driving by, which is what I'm usually doing, coming and going to a hockey game late at night or something, that doesn't really hold a lot of mustard when you call in. It's better if it's a homeowner that's physically at their house that's being disturbed. So I think we'd like to have the community really reach out if you're having a day where it smells at your house, okay? The other thing I wasn't aware of was how much volume of material comes from non-pipe sources, and that means trucks, because we also talked about the potential that some of the trucks have been there too early, making a little bit of noise, so we want to police that as well. And that's not something that we actually call in and do complaints about, but we could if we see people there earlier than 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know exact hour that is. The other thing that I took out of it was I don't really think the burning of the basically trucked-in materials is causing the smell. Like Michael said, it seems like it's all basically the effluent coming through the pipes. They just are in the process of adding Franklin Lakes right now, and they've got plans to try to add Oakland, which theoretically they believe is going to improve things down there, because they'll be working closer to capacity and be able to get a better result with the natural processes that go on there, but we'll see. There's no monetary compensation to the town of Waldwick for us having it there, and as you know, it's a non-taxable location. But again, I think it seemed well run, maintained, and conscientious employees there. As far as the later on tonight, we're going to be talking about the pistol range. I had asked for that to be removed from the agenda last meeting because we couldn't be here with all the people we wanted, but I apparently had actually made it to a motion. I was also approached about the Bergen Ave. Excuse me?
No.
I was also approached about a Bergen Avenue property that's had an open permit since I think we said 2019, Patrick. And, it's kind of a long time for a permit to be out, but there have been extenuating circumstances with the COVID and this and that. But the property seemed, not really all that bad off. I thought it was going to look a lot worse when I went and took a look at it today. So we're on top of that. We also talked about the new parking lot project coming up behind us. We did the perk test, and the results, I guess, were okay, not spectacular, but good enough. We've also got the project of trying to develop Brookview Park, which is like the 12.5 acres over there by HCA, and we've applied for open space funds for that, and for a pedestrian bridge and paths. As far as the water filtration work that we're trying to do, we're trying to get access to an easement on the lands that the HCAC has, and that's a work in progress. And we'll have a couple things under agenda and resolutions to look at later. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Our Administrator, Patrick.
No report, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Our Clerk, Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On the agenda tonight were two tenant registration refunds. 2022-191 was removed because it was turned out that it was not an open payment, but there is one listed. I just wanted to mention that the financial disclosure statements, the deadline is up. I still have one planning board member who has to complete theirs, and then we'll be at 100%, so otherwise we're in compliance. With regards to elections, May 17th is the last day to register to vote in the primary election. My office will be open on May 17th until 8 p.m. May 31st is the last day to apply for a vote by mail ballot by mail. June 3rd to June 5th is the early voting period. All that information is on our website under elections. And June 7th is the primary election, and the polls again are open 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. The county has changed the way election materials are going to be returned moving forward due to the new state laws that have gone into effect. So my day just got a tad bit longer because I will need to go with the police to the county to certify the materials that we bring down. They're going to have different stations, and I'll have to certify to different things. So that's that. Liquor licenses, the next two council meetings, we will be approving liquor license renewals. That process started about 2 weeks ago. We are really just waiting for the tax board to open up their list so that I can make sure everybody has tax clearance, and then we will start doing those renewals. I'll be working on next Tuesday with Russo and Associates on our 2022 vehicle audit. This is done every year just to make sure that we are insuring the correct vehicles, and anything that we have that we no longer own is taken off. The Waldwick swim team registration is going to be handled online this year, and I'm working on that to get that up and running by Monday. Thankfully, the swim lessons will not be online. We'll be handling that the same way we always have, although we haven't had swim lessons since 2019, which was only the second year I was here. So we're working with Vic to get at least some details on the website so that people can find that registration easily. And finally, I just wanted to mention the 2022 Bergen County Historic Preservation Awards. I attended, again, as the council member and mayor said last evening, with the mayor and Councilman Schatz, as well as members from WCA. I'm a history major, and I was in awe of the recipients of these awards, the passion that they have for their projects, and I was fascinated by how much history there actually is in Bergen County. So the passion that these recipients have for their towns, historic preservation, should be recognized and applauded by all. Some people were actually moved to tears as they were describing their project, and some of their projects were just unbelievable. Like you can't believe somebody wrote a book during COVID with 2 other people and a graphic artist. Like it really takes dedicated people to history, to wanting people to know about it. So WCA received the History Education Award for a series of achievements: the restoration and preservation of the historic Waldwick Railroad Station, which is now on the National and New Jersey Registry of Historic Places. Then they planned for the building to adaptive reuse as the Waldwick Railroad Museum, local history, and produced a wonderful series of exhibits. Rich Mandela, in particular, was instrumental in the group receiving this award by submitting the necessary documentation required to be considered for this award. Rich initially submitted some photos of the exhibits that are at the museum, and finally the woman said, "Yeah, you qualify. Just put the packet together." So while WCA has rotating exhibits, there are permanent exhibits such as the Waldwick Foundation, honoring our veterans and local trade lore. I just wanted to congratulate again Chuck Wanamaker, Randy Reveley, David and Lisa Bartold, Rich Manella, Andrea Mistretta, and Perry Quintera, as they exemplify how volunteers can enhance their communities through historic preservation, local history, and education. So congratulations to all of them. It really was a very special night. That's all.
Thank you. Covering for our borough attorney, Eric.
Thank you. There are no reports. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Consent resolutions and resolutions of the governing body.
Thank you, Mayor. Be it resolved that the following resolutions herewith listed by consent, having been considered by the governing body of the Borough of Waldwick, are hereby passed and approved. 2022-176, approval of consent. 2022-177, approval of minutes, regular meeting, April 26, 2022. Policy vote, A. Boy Scout Troop 210 requests to have a small barrel fire near Pavilion A on June 16th for the flag retirement ceremony and waiver of the fire permit fee. B. Susanna Haig requests request to hold a block party on June 18th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. With Cypress Court to be closed between 14 and 15 Cypress Court for a birthday party with bumper car ride. 2022-178, awarded non-fair and open contract to RVH Mulch Supply LLC for mulch in the amount of $22,094.25. 2022-179, award a fair and open contract to D&L Paving Contractors for the 2022 road rehabilitation project in the amount of $223,714.20. 2022-180, authorizing final renewal of the Environmental Renewals LLC lease of the Waldock Mulch Pit. 2022-181, award contract with Valley Medical Group for alcohol and drug testing services. 2022-182, authorize advertisement and receipt of bids for the Frederick Street and Harrison Avenue Improvement Project. 2022-183, authorization for the execution of an application for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection Treatment Works approval for the estate of Jean D. Martini, 6 Monroe Street, Block 134.02, Lot 15. 2022-185, award a non-fair and open professional service contract to Boswell Engineering for improvements to East Prospect Street, Phase 1 and 2, in the amount of $81,000. 2022-185, approve request from the Waldock Lions Club to extend their shed located behind the pistol range. 2022-186, approve Highland Community Association request for borough services in conjunction with the HCA concert in the park. 2022-187, authorize release of dumpster escrow for 78 Bergen Avenue. 2022-188, authorize release of cash management guarantee and cancellation of maintenance bond for Harrison Street Capitol, Block 163, Lot 13.01. 2022-189, appointment of 2022 pool lifeguards and swim coach and the electrical subcode official. 2022-190, authorize refund for tenant registration for Jean Fernandez in the amount of $30. 2022-191 is not used. 2022-192, water overpayment for 46 Leonard Drive, account 2806-0, and 2022-193, payment of vouchers.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second? First, I'd like to pull 2022-25 for discussion. Do I have a motion and a second to accept the next? Don, second by Paul. Anyone have a question? Don?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on the policy vote A, the Boy Scout Troop 210 wanting to have a flag retirement ceremony. And I think this is something that's normally managed by our American Legion. And I would just encourage them to reach out to the American Legion just to make sure they're conducting the process properly and perhaps invite them to even participate. So that's just a recommendation, not a requirement. The other is, I want to comment on 186, the Highland Community Association requesting the borough assistance. What they're requesting is power for their outdoor concert in the park in June. The borough typically provides the HCA with a generator and with a light stand because there are no lights or electricity in HCA Park. The borough has been supporting the HCA in this effort for probably 25 or so years, and I think we're happy to do so. We just want to make sure that the HCA board, which is making this request, is also somewhat impeding our progress with our water filtration system, and we hope they take that into consideration as the borough continues to support programs like this.
Anyone else? Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes,
Ms.
except I'll abstain from the minutes approval since
Okay.
I couldn't listen to them.
Ms. Sericola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
And could you read 2022-185?
Approve request from Waldock Lions Club to extend their shed located behind the pistol range. Be it resolved that the municipal council of the borough of Waldwick hereby approves the request from the Waldock Lions Club to extend the club's shed located behind the pistol range as shown in the drawing submitted by Edwin P. Sherman, R.A., P.P., on April 14, 2022.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Councilman Bishop, second by Councilman Sherman. On the question.
Yeah, first of all, I apologize that I couldn't be here for the first attempt to get this through on a motion, but Patrick and I spoke, and I thank Councilman Mr. Councilman Ritchie and Councilman Saracola for stopping by Friday to take a look at the place, because it's kind of one of those off-the-beaten-path places that people have probably never been inside and took a look around, and they asked a lot of questions about why this is something that the club has requested. I think they have a thorough understanding now of what's going on back there and that it's kind of crowded. In your packet now, we put a little bit of a description together, the club did, so you could understand why the club made the request. I assume everybody's read through that. That should have taken care of some of the questions. We have a couple members here tonight, and most importantly, our architect, who happens to be a Lions Club member, Ed Sherman. If you have any specific, construction questions, but he did submit the drawings to the construction code official, who reviewed them and approved them. We also tried to reach out to Chief Messner, and I believe Patrick handled that communication, and I believe his concerns have been addressed. As far as the Baseball and Softball Association, we are willing to basically accommodate getting access in and out of the blue ground-mounted C storage box however they prefer. We could relocate it, we could flip it around, we could kind of give them more access around the corner of the proposed addition, and I think that's a to-be-determined method that he would prefer. Is that right, Patrick?
If I may, Mayor.
Sure.
Yes, that's correct. And there were just 3 items that we had discussed. One from baseball, softball, which you had referenced, moving that C box. The other one was the adjustments that the door from the pistol range can open up 180 degrees. And the last one, that should there be any change in the leveling of the pistol shooting track on the inside, that the Lions Club would make any correction that was needed. Just those 3 things would be added to any of them.
Yeah. The other thing I think that's important to understand is that this would be at no cost to the municipality. The Lions Club is looking to take this on as a service project because it helps us serve others, and so there's really no cost to the municipality. All the construction materials and labor would be, self-installed and self-purchased. We actually did something nearly identical to this back in 2012. Don, I think you were on the board at the time, obviously, and I think I was as well. And we approved it back then, so I hope everybody looks favorably upon, this expansion, which is definitely needed, in my opinion.
Anyone else?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So last week when we got this proposal, we basically got a drawing that, frankly, I didn't understand. But then this weekend, we did receive a written explanation, and I did go down and look at the storage facility. The first thing that kind of jumped out at me was what Greg just said. We approved construction of this in 2012. I don't recollect that. I was actually surprised to learn, it just may be my faulty memory, but I was surprised to learn that a private organization in town was storing equipment on public property, and I'm not really sure what the agreement was. So the first question in my mind was, if this is allowed, I think we have to kind of explore the parameters of how it's allowed, and if we allow one organization to do this, even though the Lions Club does a lot of good things in town and they're a well-respected organization, there are others that may have similar needs. And I think it kind of brings in a bigger question of, should we be allowing other organizations in town the opportunity to store equipment and supplies on public property? So while I think this did address some of the questions that came up, I still do have questions. I'd like to see the 2012 agreement. And if we don't have a written agreement, I think we need to think about creating one. We happen to live in a time when there's liability for every decision you make and everything you do. We let the grad ball produce their grad ball program in our DPW garage, but we have a written contract with them. We renew it every year. We know what the terms of the agreement are, and I think we have to do those kinds of things to protect ourselves, but also to protect the grad ball committee and others that come before us and want to use borough facilities. So I still don't think we're ready to move forward on this. I think we still have some questions. I also think we need to look at that space in a bigger picture instead of doing incremental improvements down there. And if there is a need for something like this, perhaps addressing the larger picture. So I don't think I'm ready to move forward with this yet, and have a lot of other questions to be answered, including looking at the 2012 agreement and seeing what it says, when it expires, if it expires, or what else we need to decide on, in this day and age in terms of who's responsible for what.
Anyone else? Yes.
I can just address some of Don's concerns. In terms of insurance, just like when the Lions Club runs a carnival on public property, we get insurance through international hold harmless agreements, whatever is necessary. That shouldn't be a problem. I do wish you would have reached out to me with some of these questions prior to
Well,
tonight.
I got this Saturday, so.
That's all right, but I also heard through Patrick that you had questions, and I said, please have Don give me a call so I can answer them, and I didn't hear from you, but
And you didn't call me either.
complaining.
You didn't call me either. I have a phone too.
I understand that. I tried to
Okay.
communicate through our administrator. But be that as it may, I'm not complaining that you didn't call me. I'm just wishing that you would have addressed these questions prior to tonight so we could have been prepared to answer them rather than delay it further. I think you make a good point. You're very concerned about liability, as everybody should be up here. But I don't think it's an issue, and I think it can be easily resolved with, like the other agreements that we have in town with other entities, including the Lions Club. So I think we've addressed all the concerns.
Anyone else?
Yeah, thanks. So I appreciate you calling me to come down. It was good to see the space back there. I don't have any questions as it relates to what's going to happen with the extension. But I come from a background where there's contracts and extensive contracts. We're going to sublet a small little office, right? There's an agreement that's reviewed and all the contingencies. So this is my first year. I don't know, what's the protocol? Do we get an agreement first and get a chance to review that before we vote on it, or do we vote and then the agreement's drafted after? But, I think like any type of relationship between an organization, whether it be a borough or a business-to-business, we really should make sure that there's contingencies for things like, what happens if the Lions Club, decides they don't want it anymore? Do they pay to take it down, right? Or if the police department needs that space, can they take that space? Are we able to kind of move them? Just contingencies, I think, are going to be key. And I think we ought to do that for everything up here, especially in 2022. So I don't know the process. I don't know if we can talk about that, or.
I can comment on experience with other boards, whether it's a planning board, you can always make things contingent upon reaching an agreement satisfactory to the parties in the future. So you don't have to go through this whole process again. You're basically okay with the concept of the structure, the way it's designed, where it's going to be, but it's subject to these final approvals, whether it's insurance or whether it's some type of a lease agreement, But I don't know if the attorney can comment on that, Eric.
That is something that we're going to have to address with Mr. Bassong.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of background with respect to this particular request and/or the past contract from 2012, so I'd have to review that further.
Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Bjork, can you remind me again what exactly is going to be stored in that shed?
Sure. The primary use of the expanded area would be for handicap ramps and lifts and stair lifts for people in town. So what happens is over the last 7 to 8 years, I guess word's gotten around that the club donates their time, labor, and material to erect handicap ramps on a temporary basis around town. We spent a lot of time working with the building department, getting these approved so we didn't have to put footings in, go in front of zoning boards, and get variance approvals. It's now a pretty streamlined process where the building department basically says, okay, this is deemed a temporary structure, it can be put in the front yard, and they almost look like erector sets. And we'll come in and we'll install them on a weekend with 7 or 8 guys and gals, and sometimes they're there for 3 weeks because somebody expires. Sometimes they're there for 25 years. We just don't know. But over time, we've accumulated a fair amount of this ramp product, and right now, a lot of it's installed, but I'll get a call one day, and all of a sudden, 2 or 3 need to come down, and there's really limited space to store these things now. So, and in addition to the the handicap ramps that are stored there. We also have all the tree stands and the lumber for erecting the tree stands for the, the town's Christmas tree sale that the Lions Club does at the corner there. And we have a manger scene, I guess, right, which we put up at the church. I think we have a hot dog cart with which other organizations will rent and clean, once they use it, they need it for their events. Okay?
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question. So when we talked the other day, I think you said the drawings needed to be adjusted. So
Yeah.
the ones we got in the email, were those the adjusted ones, or do they have to be subsequently adjusted?
They need to subsequent be adjusted. The architect, if he, I don't know if he's allowed to testify or whatever, come up here at this point, but he was going to basically say he would redo them, but he wanted to hear everybody's comments, so he didn't have to do them twice. But the primary thing is I guess there was a little bit of miscommunication. We wanted to keep the addition, if you will, back far enough so that the two gray hollow metal doors can swing open 180 degrees against the wall, so that the structure would be pulled back about 3.5, 4 feet, so that can occur. It's drawn a little close to the doors right now. And again, once we talk to the Baseball Association, if they want us to clip the corner off a little bit, so they got a little bit more room, that could be done.
Cool, I know you're waiting.
I just wanted to, I tend to agree with what Mike and Don had said about the fact that I think you might need some contracts, or at least look at some contracts with the same thing. I think that we have contracts with the ambulance corps, we have contracts with the grad ball committee. I think we have to look at that. And one of the questions I had was, you just mentioned that you got approvals from Joe on the plans, but now you're saying the plans are needed to be changed?
Oh, yeah,
Or-
that's a common case. I mean, he basically approved the drawings as submitted for code compliance, structural design, and if you make a change to the drawings, what you do is you resubmit and you just make a change. That's pretty common. But
I think
and that this is a result of after talking to Mark Messner and talking to Troy about what they might want, and then making sure it's back from the doors.
And the baseball club has been talked to or not been talked to?
Well, again, we tried to call them. They didn't call us back. And I know Ed Sherman tried them a couple times, but Patrick's been more of the conduit, it sounds like, and I think they're fairly comfortable that they'll eventually decide which way they want us to go.
Yeah, I spoke with both the Baseball Softball Association and the Police Department just to assure that any of their concerns were addressed in the Lions Club application, and spoke with Councilman Bjork after that. And those are the three items that I'd mentioned before, being the 180-degree door opening being permitted, the movement of the baseball softball trailer, and the assumption of any movement of the shooting equipment on the inside of the building. So those three things have been, those three concerns are the only concerns from baseball, softball, and police department, and they have been addressed by the Lions Club and potentially incorporated into any agreement that the mayor and council should consider tonight.
So, we were having a nice dialogue. I think that's kind of where I stand. I think I wouldn't agree to something before seeing the contract in the event that we would then agree to the contract. It's just not, I've never done that before. So I just would recommend, I think there's some outstanding things with the drawing. I think that we need to decide how we handle other organizations that also want to use space within the community. If we can come to an agreement on a contract, I would absolutely support this, but just not right now.
Anyone else? Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
I'm going to abstain until we get the questions that we brought up tonight answered.
Mr. Ritchie?
No.
Mr. Schatz?
No.
Mr. Shalero?
No.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Okay. Public hearing and adoption of ordinances. I think, Patrick, you're going to take care of this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think for the public hearing, do we have to read it into the record?
Do you want me to just read it by title?
Yeah,
or-
but
So this is resolution number 2022-194. It's going to authorize the application for the Bergen County Open Space Trust Fund 2022 Municipal Program Park Improvement Application for Brookview Park.
Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Don, second by Paul. Any question?
I think we would, at this point, open this up to public comment, should any of the public want to comment on this application, and I can explain it, Mayor, if you would like.
Sure, go ahead.
So this is an application to the Bergen County Open Space Trust Fund. It's a grant program that they run for municipal park improvements, where the county will match dollar for dollar any amount that the municipality pledges up to, obviously their availability of funds. So the project that we have selected is for installing a pedestrian bridge and developing a walking trail in Brookview Park. Brookview Park is on the other side of 17 behind the Malcolm Street, the Malcolm Street Pump Station and the HCA Community Association. It lies kind of behind Malcolm Street, between there and the Saddle River. It is a completely wooded piece of property that the borough owns and is very, in my opinion, underutilized, and most residents of the borough are not aware that it's borough property and available for anybody to use. And so what we'd like to see is improvements made so that it has more availability to the residents. Something that cuts it off from the public. The main entrance now is through HCA Park, which has only on-street parking, and you have to walk through a private community association park to get to this park area, because you have to cross a small tributary to the Saddle River. The borough is also fortunate to own a pump station for sewer and a well station along Malcolm Street, where we have a pretty sizable parking lot, and we have the start of a nice path into this park, but this area is cut off by that same unnamed tributary to the Saddle River. So the idea is to use this borough property for parking, to put a bridge across this unnamed tributary so that you can gain access to the bulk of Brookview Park. And Brookview Park, to get an idea of its size, is a 12-plus acre park, so it's rather large. It has a lot of opportunity. The project is more expensive than it otherwise would be because it is in a flood zone, and it requires a lot of application to the DEP for permitting. So of the $115, I think, roughly $1,000, the project cost, the engineering of it is just less than half. It's about $50,000. So it is, the construction costs are $60,000, professional fees $55,500, and then some permit fees of about $3,000. So it is, compared to at least our other projects, it is very heavy on engineering costs, but it's because of that reason, because a lot of these areas are in flood zones. So should the public support this, the mayor and council support this, we'll make our application to the Bergen County Park Improvement Program. We would find out usually late in the year, November, December. It would be included in our capital program next year for the borough to put forth their 50% portion of the funding, and then we would begin with the design, permitting, and construction of the project. I would expect late summer, maybe early fall next year. Hopefully it's something that we're able to at least get underway in the fall of next year. A big question mark of that is how long it takes to get those permits from the DEP. That could be a review that takes a few weeks, could be a review that takes 6 months. So a lot of that will depend on that timeline.
Any from the public would like to comment? Nope, I've closed the public's comments.
And then a vote on the resolution.
All right, now, we want to read the resolution?
Sure, yeah. Whereas the Bergen County Open Space Recreation, Floodplain Protection, Farmland and Historic Preservation Fund, County Trust Fund is what it's called, provides matching grants to municipal governments and to nonprofit organizations for assistance in the development or redevelopment of outdoor municipal recreation facilities. And whereas the Borough of Waldwick desires to further the public interest by obtaining a matching grant of $118,475 from the County Trust Fund to fund the following project: pedestrian bridge and walking trail at Brookview Park. And whereas the governing body has reviewed the County Trust Fund program statement and the Trust Fund Municipal Program Park Improvements application and instructions, and desires to make an application for such matching grant and provide application information and furnish such documents as may be required. And whereas as part of the application process, the governing body received the required public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed park improvements in the application on May 10th, 2022. And whereas the County of Bergen shall determine whether the application is complete and in conformance with the scope and intent of the county trust fund. And whereas the applicant is willing to use the county trust fund in accordance with such rules, regulations, and applicable statutes, and is willing to enter into an agreement with the County of Bergen for the above-named project and ensure its completion on or about the project contract expiration date. Now therefore be it resolved by the Borough of Waldwick, one, that it is hereby authorized to submit the above-named completed project application to the county by the deadline of May 6th as established by the county, and two, that in the event of the county trust fund award that may be less than the grant amount requested above, the Borough of Waldwick has or will secure the balance of funding necessary to complete the project or modify the project as necessary. And three, that the Borough of Waldwick is committed to providing dollar-for-dollar cash match for the project. And four, that only those park improvements identified and approved in the project application, its trust fund contract, or other documents will be considered for eligible reimbursement. Five, that the Borough of Waldwick agrees to comply with all federal, state, and local laws, rules, and regulation in its performance of the project. And six, that this resolution take effect immediately.
Do I have a motion and a second?
You have,
Motion, we have it ready?
yeah?
Okay, anyone have a question on this?
I have one point, Mayor. There may be a question as to the to number one, and that therefore be it resolved. The deadline for submission is May 6th. That is correct, and this application was submitted to the county by the application deadline. It was confirmed received by the county. It will not be finalized and considered by the county until they receive the evidence of our public hearing and the resolution of support from the mayor and council.
Anyone else? Yes.
So I think for number two, it says they may provide less than, half, right? Does that mean if they provide less than half, we still have to move forward with the bridge and make up the difference?
So that's a big depends, but yes, you could do one of two things. Well, you could do three things. You could scrap the project entirely.
You can, okay.
Yeah, sure. And the county of Bergen would happily take their 50% match back. You could reduce the scope of the project so that it would meet the restrictions of the funding, or we could choose to increase our portion of the funding to the full funding amount. This is this amount, I will say, in previous years, we have received more than this grant application. So I expect that we will receive at least the funding that we request.
So I apologize. How big is this bridge? $120,000 for a bridge? It's just
Yeah,
a lot of money.
Yeah, the construction of both the bridge and the trails, we expect to only be $60,000, but it is the soft cost, the engineering costs that are quite expensive, $55,500. The bridge, the size of the bridge, it'll be a pedestrian bridge, so somewhat at or less than 6 feet, which is a requirement. The DEP doesn't like to see you submit for bridges that could carry a vehicle load. So
6 feet long.
no, 6 feet wide. Yeah. So 6 feet wide. The length of the bridge, I mean, depending on exactly where it's going to go and where it's supported from on each edge of the bridge, I'd say it's somewhere between 12 and 18 feet across the stream. It is a wide but somewhat shallow stream, depending. I mean, there are times when I've seen the stream be no more than a foot deep, and times when I've seen it be 3-4 feet deep.
Yes.
It goes into our capital next year. I mean, we're talking about big dollars next year for capital already, so I just want to make sure we all think this through.
And the only thing to comment on that, for me at least, would be this is funding for Bergen County park improvement programs is a dollar that we include in pretty much every capital budget we have. So for the past 2 years, it was Ted Bell Park, which was a match higher than this amount. I think it was $75,000 for those applications. Prior to that, it was the tennis court rehabilitation project. Before that, now I'll look to Kelly because those are her years, but in every budget, capital budget, we have a line for funding the 50% match. That's not to say that it's money easily spent, but we certainly wouldn't be increasing our typical appropriation to accommodate this application.
And so what we're saying is this is potentially that project for next year.
That's exactly what
And we'll
we're saying.
decide on that at budget time next year.
That's
So
exactly
we're just
right.
basically voting to submit the application.
Yep, so
All
like
right.
in this year's budget, the mayor and council funded the phase 2 of Ted Bell Park, that was same exact municipal park improvement program. Next year, it would be this program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can back up Patrick's assessment of the DEP and the fees and the situation you'd have to do with this. They're going to have to go in and do investigations they're going to have to go into the investigations. To plan that, they have to get the permits and approvals to go and do the investigations in the wetlands and floodplains. And the DEP is going to take, his assessment of a couple of weeks to 6 months, it's going to be 6 months. Yeah. They don't do anything less than 6 months.
But, you know, part of the reason why it's so expensive is also part of the reason why this is a very unique piece of property. It's right along the Saddle River. It's very secluded. It is a flood zone, unique vegetation, unique habitat. I've encountered deer back there a few times. It's really, anybody on the council or anybody from the public who's interested in taking a tour back there, I'd really encourage you to. I always look for a reason to go, so you're certainly, you can invite me if you go along.
Patrick, I know we have a right of way to the other well pump on the side of HCA.
That's right.
Could parking be done there, or is it just a driveway right away?
Yeah, that driveway is for borough use only.
And it's a driveway, it's not a parking, not
Not a
big enough to be
parking
a
lot.
parking.
No, it's just big enough to be a driveway.
Yeah. And we don't want to park there. Yeah. Get in and out of the road.
Right.
Okay.
Anyone else? Yes,
Yes, just following up on Patrick's comments on the area, it's a beautiful untapped resource for the borough of Waldwick. It's an absolutely magnificent park, and our families will spend countless hours walking through it and learning, and I could see schools going on field trips through this little park. It's not little, but it's just going to be a wonderful resource for our residents, and I think many, many residents will use it and will be grateful for the opportunity to. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, Patrick, I was just trying to equate all these projects going on over there with each other and where they lay. I had seen the drawings a while back. I noticed in the application that the drawings were attached, but we didn't get them, so I didn't have a chance to look at them again now. But we had the one young lady come in here that wanted to do the Eagle Scout project. Is that at all overlapping with this? And then obviously the easement area for the Malcolm Pump Station. So can you
Yeah.
kind of just give me a
Yeah,
little-
absolutely. The project by the Eagle Scout applicant, it would dovetail with this project. The difference being when the Eagle Scout does her trail blazing, she can't cut any vegetation, provide any fill, remove any trees. She's very limited on what she can do with her project because we haven't received those approvals from the DEP. So, but that same trail network will come into this trail network, and
Kind
we
of
will.
linked together?
They will certainly link together. And then as far as HCA Park and the easement that runs through this park is entirely separate from HCA Park, but the only overlap will be the water main that we put in will run right by this bridge. And Boswell, being our municipal engineer, will use some of what they learned from one to inform the other. And they've already said it'll provide us some cost savings because they'll already have done extensive surveying in the area.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk, take the roll, please.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Sericola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes,
Okay, we have one introduction of ordinances. Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-15?
Ordinance number 2022-15, an ordinance amending Chapter 48 fees, Section 64-4.2, summer recreation programs to add Waldwick swim team.
Motion and second is in order to move and pass this ordinance on first reading, and that it will be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Mr. Sherman, second by Mr. Paul. Anyone have a question? Nope. Okay, if not, clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Sericola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
yes.
Okay. Anybody have unfinished business here? I
Yes.
just have one unfinished bit. Okay, go ahead, you go.
You sure?
Yeah,
Okay, thanks, Mayor. So I have some new information about the alternate route discussion that we had at the January 25th council meeting. So as we're all aware, and Patrick also stated in his memo, the state passed this law this year allowing civil service municipalities to include alternate route candidates in their hiring process. So when this was first brought to our attention, I wanted to get the police department's perspective, as they're obviously the experts, and this would be affecting them. And Councilman Ritchie and I met with Chief Messner and Lieutenant Seifert. We were informed by them that the police department does not have an issue with the potentially adding alternate route candidates into the mix. I think the hiring process should be about picking the best candidate possible, and adding another option will expand the hiring pool and give us a chance to review more candidates that we otherwise wouldn't be able to. Also, these candidates would have no academy training costs, and the hire would typically start sooner since they don't have to go through the police academy. So I'd like to ask the council today to consider taking advantage of the new law and allow for alternate route candidates to be part of our hiring process. If we could have a discussion, Mayor.
anyone would like to discuss this with? Just said. Don?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the last time we talked about this, the initial thought was, as a civil service community, sometimes our hands are tied and we have to abide by their rules and select their candidates. And sometimes the candidates are good candidates, sometimes they're not. So I think the responsible thing to do is to expand our field of opportunity for recruiting. And if this offers us that, then our police department can choose from the best candidates, whether it's alternate route or civil service. So I support that.
Anyone else? Sir?
Thank you. Yeah, as Councilwoman Saracola said, when we brought this up, it was many months ago, as I typically do, I was not prepared to kind of make a comment or a decision at that time. I wanted to learn more about the process and understand, more how the police department felt about this. I think that this decision impacts them more than anyone. So Councilwoman and I had a chance to meet at Borough Hall with the chief and lieutenant. We met with them for about an hour, asked a number of questions. We really gave them every opportunity to voice concern about making this adjustment. And they were broadly supportive and felt that they could speak for most, not all, but most of the colleagues down at the police station. So I left that meeting comfortable that this was the right approach.
I did speak with Lieutenant Seifert and also the newer police officers in our department, and they felt the same way. They felt that this would help them. As Don said, it's more people in the pool. And I think we might be, if you agree with this, I think this might be helping us because we do have a police officer that's retiring. I'm not retiring, that's leaving. And we would be able to get someone in really quick. As long as that person's the right person for us. And I've always looked at it that we, go to our departments to see how they feel. So they're the ones that are there every day, 24/7 with these people that they have to work with. Anyone else? Yes.
Yes, I would like to see the borough stick with our current hiring practice of the civil service exam. There's no question as to, you look at the scores that come in, you look at number 1, number 2, number 3. People know what the scores are. You interviewed number 1. If they don't meet your criteria, you could go to number 2. It leaves no question as to the hiring process, and I would like to stick with the civil service rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Would you want to put this to a vote? Or would you do the roll, please?
Sure, do we have a motion in a second?
Yes.
Oh, straw, I'm sorry. I thought you were doing all.
No.
We have to,
Okay.
since I'm going to vote first, can you just tell me what are we actually saying here? I always
Go
go first. I'm a little nervous before. I got to make sure I understand what I'm
Go ahead.
doing.
So this is just a straw poll, understanding if the mayor and council support making accommodations to accept alternate route candidates into the police department selection process. Alternate route means they've already attended the academy, they have a police training certificate. Actually going through with this process, the mayor and council will need to adopt 2 ordinances, an anti-nepotism ordinance and a non-conflict of interest by ordinance. We have those in our manual, but civil service requires they be adopted by ordinance. So the straw poll tonight will just inform if at the next meeting, we will introduce those ordinances.
With that excellent explanation, I'm okay with proceeding with that step.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schaaf?
Yes.
Mr. Shalera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
No.
Okay, any other unfinished business? I have some, if I could. I made the young lady go, my turn.
Go ahead.
At the last meeting,
Okay.
someone came forward to us and reminded us that we must speak at the meetings because that's what we are elected for. I did pull the committee reports, and I did pull everything. There are 6 council people. 1 council person was absent twice, so that there was no report. 1 council person was absent, and there was no report. 1 council person was absent, but on vacation. He listened to the meeting, and he did vote on certain things and made a statement that he will not report, but when he comes back, he will report. Another council person was absent twice, and once he was here, and he did not make a report. Another council person was here, did not make a report, was absent, did not make a report. And I guess I talk all the time, but I only talk about things that pertain to just the little policies of the town, and I let the rest of the council talk. So I just wanted to just let everyone know that. Any other unfinished business? Paul, you had something.
Okay, yes, I want to talk to the Environmental Committee. I said I was going to be, either I can do this now or new.
Doing it new.
New business?
Anybody else have unfinished? Yes. Because new and unfinished. Want to do it anew? Do it anew?
Let's go to new.
I've got some unfinished. I actually had,
All the same.
Different heading.
Yeah.
I guess it was, I think it was Janet Haskip that expressed concern over the reports, and I wanted to get clarification of whether you're looking for us to submit a report when we know we're going to be absent and have another council person read it in our absence, or were you concerned about the fact that sometimes we don't issue a report because maybe we feel we didn't have anything super significant? But I guess when you get the public comment, you can let me know about that, because I certainly can submit a report for somebody else to read in my absence when I know I'll be absent. And as far as the street naming, I was on planning board for 9 years, and I could swear we have an ordinance that made you have to name it after a veteran. Is that not true? Am I mistaken in that? Because, definitely, we approved all sorts of things on planning board. It was always a veteran that we named it
Right.
after for years and years and years.
Right.
Definitely the case is it's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement.
No, and I know that there are recent street namings that were not after.
Yeah, we did a waiver one time for one of the Poppy's grandkids, I think, and stuff like that.
Well, but that's not a decision to be made by the board, it's a decision for the mayor and council. The mayor and council get the right of.
But there is no ordinance demanding that happen.
There is an ordinance demanding that the mayor and council get the right of first
Right.
refusal, but
But
that
it
ordinance
doesn't
does
have
not
to be a veteran.
stipulate that it has to be a veteran. Now, that's certainly something that the mayor and council could entertain if you want to adopt that by ordinance.
Okay. And
There are towns that have that, it's not
Yeah,
uncommon.
the only other problem, the only thing they had once on Sherman, when DiMartini's doing that addition that goes into the pool area, a resident came forward and wanted to name it after somebody. And what happened was it wasn't done because Sherman is a continuation of that street. So to change it, that was you? Okay. And and he already went to the county to name the street, and he would have to change everything. And he felt it was inconvenient to have all these residents who live on Sherman now change their address to accommodate somebody that they want to do.
The only other unfinished business was Patrick and I have been talking about this certificate of compliance, and as a landlord, I fill it out, and I always get aggravated filling it out because it's kind of really more for when you're selling your house. So maybe I'll pass a copy of what I'm thinking about doing to some of the other people on the committee. We'll get that taken care of, hopefully. That's it.
You go new or old, doesn't matter.
Okay, I would like to look into an ordinance to name all streets after soldiers killed in wars. I think it's important to honor them, and I would love to see an ordinance addressing that. What I didn't know was new or unfinished, the swim team, will their practices be before the pool opens again? because we did that last time. I don't even think they swam last year.
They did.
They did? Okay, I would like to make sure that they are not disrupting our paid patrons from using the deep end and the lap lanes. And the meets, you know, I always have a problem with disrupting our patrons that pay. Well, getting back to swim team practice, no siblings will be swimming, like no non-members of the swim team will be swimming during that time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the swim meets, if Waldwick is hosting one, how could we do that? Could we do that before the pool opens?
May I answer, Mayor? Thank you. No, unfortunately not. There's not any discretion given to us by the New Jersey Pool Managers Association, which is what the borough belongs to and what, and the league that our swim team competes in. No discretion given to us on the timing of those meets. We have begged of the Pool Managers Association to not schedule swim meets here in the borough. We don't have the most conducive pool, or the pool most conducive for swim meets. We have a slide in one lane. We do not have starting blocks, and it is shorter than the average competition pool. And our parking compared to other larger pools is also smaller. So we have begged them not to schedule meets here this year. We're still waiting to find out about that. But to your question about can we, schedule it whenever we want, unfortunately not. No. It's all or
Okay.
nothing with them.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, Paul, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to fill in, I have a question with the Environmental Committee. I obviously want to thank them very much for doing all the work they did on the Earth Day. I'm sure everybody's reported it before. I wasn't around last meeting, but I wanted to say, I've heard a lot about it and heard that they've done a very good job. I also wanted to ask, we were asking about this, talking about this. We have a plastic bag collection program in town, and the Environmental Committee wanted to know if we needed approval for this. The bins that we have are blowing away. So when they're not filled up, they're blowing away and they're tending to fall apart, and we haven't had them out there very much. We'd like to get, they'd like to get two 96-gallon wheelable bins, and it's a cost of, at this point, the program's been very, very positive. We already have over 350 pounds of bags, which is well close. We're working towards our first bench already, which is 500 pounds, so we're actually only 150 pounds away. We wanted to see if this can go against our, goes against the cost for the town, or goes out of our budget for the Environmental Committee to get these bins, because the ones that we have are just not sticking around. They're blowing away, and in one case, one was taken, stolen, and the other ones, so we'd like to do this and find out how that would be paid for.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we could pay for it out of borough funds. I mean, your funds are kind of our funds when we want them anyway, so it's not, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Yeah, I think that depending on the dollar amount, the Buildings and Grounds budget can absorb this. I would ask if we're going to buy multiple and they're going to be bigger, right now we have 3 locations. We have DPW, Fire Company 2, and the library.
Right.
It might be best if we cut down to 2, maybe DPW and the library. I know, and especially since we had an issue with the one at Fire Company 2
Yeah, the way
being
the
stolen. So
environmental-
maybe we buy 2, as long as the mayor and council think that, as long as I determine the price to be appropriate, and I'm known to be pretty cheap, that we can move forward with that.
The
We
Environmental
have the
Committee
money.
has recommended that it be done at the Company 2 in a recycling center, and they're recommending 2 of them, and they're come out to be approximately $275.
Sure.
What to do, so,
Everybody all right with them going ahead with this?
275.
total. And then we have to
270
get some garbage bags, the 96
Both
garbage.
or one?
2
Okay.
each, I mean.
Two for $275.42.
That's fine.
Find them cheaper there.
I'll get them cheaper.
Anyone else in the new business?
I'll give you the
Okay, if not, no, anybody else in new business?
New business.
I'm sorry, no business is being moved to, I'm sorry,
New business.
new business.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I have 2 items. One, as I had mentioned in a memo 2 weeks ago, we're kind of restructuring how we handle the swim team and bring them fully into the borough as a recreation program of the borough, which they had almost been entirely anyway. So some of that changes how we accept registration. We already hire one of their coaches but the request tonight would be, they usually hire two coaches, one we pay, one they pay. We'll be taking in all the registration fees, so the request of the mayor and council is approval to advertise and accept for the second swim coach position. Can we take a straw poll on that, I guess? Or if anyone's opposed, I guess, let me know now. Otherwise, we'll advertise this week. Fair enough? Very good. And then the second item is, as we had discussed earlier, we have a police officer who has resigned, and we have a position to fill. Even as we consider whether or not alternate route is an option the borough wants to explore, we should still request of civil service a list of eligibles. So I request the mayor and council approve my requesting a list of eligibles from civil service.
Everybody all right with that?
Very good. Thank you, Mayor.
And then the other one is the appraisal systems will be moved to May 24th. No one else on the new business? Public,
One last new business. When we talked in the past about why we can't like block off those streets, I consider this new business. Is there any way we can just have like a removable gate or a chain so that the concerns about the vehicles being able to turn around would be alleviated? I know you said, Mayor, you went down to Trenton years ago or something.
And agree with that.
That we actually asked if we can put a
They had a
removable
gate
gate
with a
or
key
a
and
chain or
everything.
anything.
They said it wasn't gonna be feasible.
And they dictate that to us. We can't say we're okay with that with our local responders and say, hey, you know,
We
it
re-
works for us.
When that came about with the council, we did speak to the fire department. The fire department's the one with the bigger trucks that have to turn, and they weren't in agreement to.
Our local fire department doesn't think that would work. Okay.
That was last time.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
It'd be worth raising that again with them, just to see. It's been 10
Could ask-
years.
We'll ask.
Yeah, I have something that may help with that. The mayor and council were aware that I had solicited proposals from traffic engineering firms to conduct a traffic study between Franklin Turnpike and Route 17 from from East Prospect Street north to the border. And so as part of, these are traffic engineers, as part of that study, should the mayor and council choose to move forward with it, I think that would be a good time to have experts who are retained by us consider the idea, maybe, you know, make the best pitch to the state that we could make, and if we want to make it again, that would be the right time to do it.
And then also.
What's that?
All the traffic, if you're not going down the streets, they're all gonna be pushed back up onto Franklin Turnpike.
Yeah, I mean, generally our concern and why we want to improve traffic in that area holistically is because, you know, if you started with a no-through streets or one-ways on those side cut-through streets between Franklin and Route 17, you're just going to push all that traffic onto East Prospect Street, which is also a residential street. So we have to be, this is a really sensitive area that gets a high volume of traffic. So I think it's worth a traffic study. I've received 2 proposals from the 3 firms that I solicited to, so I think we're pretty close to having something for the mayor and council to consider, and I think that that's the right time to have that conversation.
Agreed.
Anyone else? Okay, public comment. Anybody from the public would like to comment on anything, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Janet Haskell, 98 Longview Drive. When it was discussed before about the alternate route and the civil service, I asked somebody to find out what other municipalities are doing, and does anybody know?
I have an idea. So there's, I think, just over 60 civil service municipalities in the state of New Jersey. In Northwest Bergen, there are only 2 others, Ridgewood and Oakland. Oakland is moving forward with considering alternate route applicants. Ridgewood was not aware of it until we had a discussion with them earlier this week. So locally, at least 1 out of 2 of the others are. I know that our chief has talked to a few other municipalities that are exploring this, and I spoke with another chief and a captain of other departments in North Jersey today, actually, that are both doing it and have done it with success. It's not unheard of. You know, there are these types of programs that you can also hire off a rice list when police officers are laid off. You can accept intergovernmental transfers from other municipalities. So there are other alternatives that the municipality currently has at disposal to hire not off of the civil service list, this would be in essence a fourth. But yeah, these are things that are being used by municipalities in our area.
Okay, thank you. And I don't understand what you were asking.
What I was saying is, when
I mean, I know what I asked.
I just read it in the typed minutes. I didn't listen to the thing, so I wasn't exactly sure what you were asking. So when a council person is absent, would you like to see them submit a report for another councilman to present in their absence? Or were you more focused on, hey, somebody was here and they just said, I have nothing to
I'm
report on?
more focused on that. I've
Okay,
had nothing to do
understood.
with you being not here or here.
Yeah,
It's-
no, I know.
It's when you're here and you say you have nothing to report.
Understood.
That was what my,
Understood. Thank you for the clarification.
thank you.
Anyone else?
Al Golden, Dante Place. What's happened to the Oval? They used to have the concerts at the Oval. Now they're going to have them in the town park?
Borough Park.
What kind of seating are you going to have there?
You bring your own.
Well, you know, my wife and I usually go to about 6 or 7 concerts a year. Now, at the Oval, it was great because you can sit at the levels and you can look down and see everything. The other 6 or 7, they've got raised platforms where you can look up and see the people. Now, you're saying you're just going to set up chairs one after another. Somebody sitting in front of you, you're not going to see the people who's playing. The Oval was perfect. Why did they decide to move?
What happened was during COVID, well, it started with COVID, unfortunately. Everything started with COVID. What happened was we needed to space people out. And when we had the concert in the Oval, we had boxes spaced out, and people were allowed to sit in the boxes with, I guess, their families.
Yeah.
With their families and everything. After COVID, hopefully it's
Open it
no
up.
more, what happened was everybody liked the way it was set up that way. And everybody recommended, a lot of people told us they liked it in the park. It's more open. They could sit there, they could bring food, they could eat, they drink. A lot of people didn't like the fact they had to sit on concrete pads when they had to listen to a band. So
Well,
we went by the recommendation of the public that came out and supported all our events. That's why we did
who's
it.
the public talk to? Do they call you personally?
The public spoke with, every time we were at I'm at all the events. Kelly's at all the events, mostly all the council are at the events. And every time the events are over, they all say, it's a great idea, we did it this way. And it's a better atmosphere for the bands to play. All the bands that we've been using are telling us the same thing.
Where's the band going to stand?
They're in the gazebo area.
So that's about 6, inches higher than the ground.
No, it's level.
It's level with the ground even. That's even worse.
No one has complained yet.
I am.
I know. And we thank you.
Okay. Yeah. If it's working, don't fix it.
Thank you. I think, next, please.
Mark Raimondo, 83 Highwood Ave. Got a quick question on the 2022-185. There was a lot of comments made. By any chance, is there a brook behind the police shooting range?
There is, yeah.
There is. Do we know if the New Jersey DP was contacted to confirm whether it's within a wetlands and if it's within 150, 200 feet? Because,
The borough engineer was contacted and provided plans that were submitted by the Lions Club and determined that there was no issue. It did not violate any DEP regulation.
okay, so that it is within compliance with the DP and
That's
they
right.
were contacted.
The DEP was not contacted. The borough engineer determined that it wasn't necessary to contact the DEP.
Okay. So then we have no restrictions at this point from a wetland standpoint regarding freshwater wetlands protection.
There's no concern regarding freshwater wetlands for this application, and that's specific to the type of structure that was proposed by the club. that it only involves footings and that it is open on the sides.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Ed Sherman, 26 Smithfield Road. In regards to the Lion's Shed, what was voted on tonight with the 3 noes, I just want to know if I revised the drawings with the comments that were made, and we do go through the attorney with the review and have something, a lease or whatever, is the board up to re-looking at that and voting favorable upon it, or are these 3 members looking negatively upon it? That's my question. Whether we comply with everything, I just want to know.
So I think it's a bigger question of, you know, it's part of the question of what services does the borough offer all organizations in the community. The Lions Club came forward with a need, and I think in the past, other organizations have been turned away when they've requested space to store other equipment. So I think that's one part we have to consider is the specifics of a lease arrangement. The other is, you know, how do we provide the same resources to other organizations in the community? So
I would
think it's
just think that each one should be brought up differently. Back 10 years ago, I came before the board, and you were on it, and you voted yes. So I don't know what's changed, and I just would like to know why you're against the Lions Club for building something to protect ramps.
I'm not against ramps or the Lions Club. I'm interested in protecting the liability of the borough. A lot has changed in 10 years. If you think nothing's changed in 10 years, that's a false assumption. We're a more litigious society. There's more issues that we have to consider, and we have to look at the big picture.
Okay? But I'm just saying, if I do what's requested, and I come back here, are you 3 going to vote no again? That's my question. Just let me know. I don't want to keep drawing it.
Well, first of
If
all,
you don't want us to put it there, just let us know right now.
First of all, it sounds like you're saying we are specifically doing this just because we don't like the Lions Club. And I'm not, I've never said that and never will say that. Lions Club has been a very good organization to this community for as long as I've been there. And I'm not against that at all. I just wanted to see more information. First of all, I was not approached by Greg about this or anybody really, and I was on vacation when it really first popped up. And the first drawing I saw was a couple weeks ago, and I said, where'd this come from? I didn't even know where it came from. I apologize because I didn't know that. Now I'm coming here and we get this Saturday, the drawings, and then now I'm going to go by everybody else's testimony saying that they've talked to the police department, they've talked to the baseball department. It sounds like everybody's trying to figure out the answers. I do agree that we're going to have to work out, as Don had said, a lot of things now are very litigious, and we have to work out some kind of agreement. They have a contract with the grad ball, and contact with other organizations. I think that if we can work out the contract and the contingencies are in there, I have no reason not to vote for it. But I'd like to see that those contingencies put into that and a lease set up so that we can cover ourselves, also yourself, and also the pistol range, and also the police, because they're going to be somewhere, it's going to be going to them too. But it is basically to cover ourselves and the Lions Club. That's what I would like to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I spend a lot of time with people in town who are in the Lions Club, so I have absolutely nothing against the Lions Club. I think what you do is fantastic. You know, I think I've commented in public segment as a citizen how much I appreciate what you all do. It's just a matter of principle. We have to look at the contract, and that's not just the way, at least the way I do business, right? It's not, here's the contract, sign it. It's typically a conversation about the things that matter the most. So I don't know the process here. I don't know if that's something that you work with the Lions Club on, or if that's something that we all collectively do offline. But at the very least, there should be, I think, a continued dialogue around some of these concerns that were raised. But as I said at the vote, if all of those concerns are alleviated, I would absolutely support this. I just think we just need to protect the borough. That's all, right? So I don't want to put you in a situation where you're just redoing this and redoing this.
Well, I mean, in the past, I've done numerous things down there for the Pistol Club, and when it was an open range, I did the addition above it. I've done storage space on the outside. Once they built the big range, I enclosed that outside. Nothing was brought up before the mayor and council for what was going on there. I did the back. We came before you. There's things that go on down there, baseball association. I mean, I love the baseball association. But you got a trailer there. Did that ever go before the mayor and council? No.
So,
Did it go before Joe at the building department? No. I don't know why you're picking on us.
so I'll just finish my comment. So consistency is huge with me. I was not here on any of those votes. I would have done the same thing. As a public citizen, I've even come up and asked those same questions about the baseball association and kind
Okay.
of what happens down there. So I am consistent. I'm not at all picking on the Lions Club here.
One of the things I did want to point out was, since we do, the pistol range is being maintained by the other 8 or 9 other towns, approximately. Do they have a say in this whole situation? Because they pay for maintenance, and we just went ahead and renovated the whole thing with them adding in their own money also.
I know, but it
And then they
wasn't brought
renovate-
up in the past for our shed or what I've done to the pistol range itself.
That's been brought up to the towns that go in there and pay maintenance on the, 'cause they
I
they
don't
pay
know.
repairs
I've
and-
come before the mayor and council for anything I've done at the pistol range. I don't know what you've done with it. And same with the baseball. I did the addition above the baseball for that second floor story. Nothing was ever brought here saying liability for putting that addition on that building.
There is.
I mean, I've done a number of things in the town, and I've done it for free, and I just want to know what's going on right now. That's all. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mike McHugh, 79 Bergen Ave. Two things. One was on the Ted Bell playground, there'd be a dedication. It does look great. I live near there. Will there be some sort of plaque that's put there? Like I know the mayor said he got a lot of information about the family.
It's
And
going to be almost like, you ever go into Borough Park?
Yes.
Where they have the Emily LaRace Park, and then we have the other park, the way they're designed,
Mhm.
it's going to look like that.
Okay. Because I think it is important for the history of the town. Like someone mentioned history before.
No, it's going to be a nice design.
Yeah, 'cause
Like it'd be like a playground.
Right. Emily Rice, there's Emily Rice, there's Michael Shepard, there's all the
Yeah, if you go to
veterans.
Emily Rice, you'll see that one. If you go across the new pavilion, you'll see the Staff Sergeant Joseph, the Augustine Pavilion. The way that thing is designed, that's the way it's going to be.
Okay. And then all the streets that are named for veterans, I don't know if it's on the website somewhere, like who this person was, just like a town history type thing.
And all the names of the veterans that all passed away or were killed in war that are named streets or named after, they're in front of the public safety complex on the monument.
Okay, all right, fair enough. And the second thing is, I came back in March about the traffic in Bergen Avenue. And it sounds like there is some discussions that have been going on about it, which is great. I appreciate that. Like I said, I would like to be a part of that solution if possible. So I can give you my email, phone number, whatever you want. And also want to let you know that, I have a high school friend who's it's like a civil engineer, planning, transportation engineer, worked for Rutgers University for 20 years. He was also a council member of the town of Fanwood for over 10 years. He's actually coming up tomorrow, and I'm going to show him what's going on, and he has some ideas. So I just like to, I'm just doing it on my own, but I want to share that with you guys, because I know it is a big issue, and I don't want to, this isn't me, this is the town, the safety thing, and it does affect all these streets, and then, East Prospect, yes, I mean, there's houses on there also, right? So it is a complicated issue, and I appreciate that. But I do want to be part of the solution, so I give my number to you guys or someone. I'd like to be part of the solution. And as you probably know also, last week, unfortunately, there was a fatal accident on Route 17 South. And what happened was, as I discussed last time, everyone was coming down Franklin Turnpike. They all came down Bergen Avenue. So I'm in and out of my house. And I came back around lunchtime, and I noticed increased traffic, which above normal. Then all of a sudden, I see car carriers going by my house and a Trailways bus coming down Bergen Avenue. 18, multiple 18-wheelers. What else? Dump trucks. Picture anything that was going down Route 17 was now coming down Bergen Avenue. So I was going somewhere, so that I called the police just to let them know, hey, this is what's going on. And I'm not sure if anything was done. I know everyone's busy. But what that tells me is there no contingency plan for things? Because we have a major highway that goes through our town. When things like this happen, do we have like an action plan where, hey, we need to close off these streets, we need to direct everyone down? Because Franklin Turnpike runs parallel to 17. If you just continue down Franklin Turnpike all the way through, it runs right into Route 17. So, I mean, do we have any plans like that? Because in my mind, like, nowhere in a reasonable universe having 18-wheelers and things like that coming down any of our side streets as being feasible or supportable. So as we go through this process, I just want to put those things on the plate. And if we can do anything in the meantime, because this is going to take some time. Right? I know it's not going to happen next week, next month, maybe not even next year, but I just want to keep the process going and want to be part of it. So appreciate that. So if you can give my information to someone.
You're all right. I'll take your information.
Okay.
And if it's something you're discussing tomorrow, I'm in the office and we'll be happy to meet with you and your friend as well.
Okay, I'm not sure
So
when he's
after the
coming in.
meeting.
I'm not sure
After
when
the meeting, you can give me your
Yep,
information.
will do. Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, any questions? Last time we were here, Mr. McHugh came up. What was the progress? I think you had assigned Matt to go look at the ways and getting them to change it. Did anything happen with that?
I'm not sure that was a request. I mean, these are public roads and they can be used by the public. There are certain restrictions, like 18-wheelers are typically that type of heavy traffic, are typically limited to truck routes, and so that would be a concern. But I think that part of the difficulty of solving this problem is it would be hard to tell typical traffic that they can't use a roadway, public roadway, especially when diverting that traffic only increases problems on other roadways, right? There's no magic bullet, and similar to Waze, I wasn't aware that the mayor and council were interested in trying to prohibit Waze from directing people over those roadways, nor would I suggest it, especially before we have a full plan for the area.
And what about the process of putting no-through streets there? I know you don't want to push stuff onto Franklin Turnpike, but it is a street that does not have stop sign. Well, it has lights, but people see the lights and everybody stops. East Prospect also doesn't have any stop signs, which means that one of the biggest problems that Mr. McHugh had last time here was they're running through stop signs.
Mhm.
And that was his biggest thing, is they're just missing stop signs, and that was his accident.
Yeah.
That was his main concern. But now, if we run our traffic down Franklin Turnpike or down East Prospect, they're much, yes, maybe it's good seeing the residential road is East Prospect, but it's still a road that does not have stop signs on it. And
Right.
It's a slower speed, or at least it's the same speed as it is down the residential roads. I understand that. But I definitely like to look into other ideas to be able to help us along until we can get the way that I think the route you're talking about, going back to the situation that they did, that the mayor had done, how long ago, Mr. Mayor? 20 years ago? Okay. Oh, 10 years.
Paul, I kind of remember what you said. I thought we were going to at least call the GPS companies and see what the deal was, if they would adjust their programming at least. I mean, just to call to see if it's possible. We kind of asked about that, not maybe officially, but I kind of agree with what Paul was saying.
We've had issues prior where, so we had trucks for a while that were getting stuck in Borough Park because some routes to industrial highway addresses were telling you
Industrial
to
Ave,
go,
yeah.
industrial, we're telling you to go into Borough Park. Literally, we had tractor trailers go into Borough Park, park their truck,
Yeah.
and walk 200 feet to the address, which is just mind-boggling. So we did have success with getting Google Maps, and Waze runs off the same data. It's the same company.
Google Maps.
Google Maps,
I
yeah.
meant either one of them.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
meant to-
No, but it's the same, people use both, so we're interested in solving with both. Yes, we did have success with correcting that problem. Unless the full mayor and council were to direct me to do it, I would not recommend, at this point, working with Waze or Google Maps to close those streets on their direction apps, because I think that it would exacerbate an issue that exists on other roads already. But I work for the full mayor and council, so whatever your direction is.
We're getting away from the public. Anybody else from the public would like to comment?
Good evening. My name is Rich Andrewevich. I live on 93 Harrison Avenue, Waldwick. As you can see, I'm a Lion. I'm belong to the Lions Club for over 15 years. We came to you because you people got a big job to do as far as making sure the law is right and everybody else is safe with all concerns. The only reason we're asking for this is because we've run out of room. We help the public as much as we can with storing stuff. I think the building, and an extension on the building, is a lot better than a 45-foot trailer parked on the side of a building. We want to make the town look nice. Everybody's talking about beautifying the parks and everything else. Well, that's what we're trying to do also. And we just want to make sure that our stuff, when we build a ramp for somebody, it is secure. We want to put it away so it's secure, so this is all we're doing. We're just asking for your help, basically. That's it. But I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by John, second by Mike. All those in favor? Aye. Good night.
Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.